Oh yeah, things are going to get quite messy here because I'm going to go in. I don't mean to offend anybody, but this has to be talk about it on BWTM Sports Gaming. Right, this man here, Deas, the trainer of the former WBC heavyweight champion of the world. Let's really talk about this. Let me start this video by saying this isn't a personal attack. These videos are not about a personal attack. This is about the progression of the sport of boxing. This is about seeing fighters being the best they possibly can be. This is about getting us the best fights possible. And this really is about getting the frauds out of boxing. Now, Deas, for a long time I've asked the question, why is he in the corner with Deontay Wilder? He's his trainer, of course, Ingram. Okay. And you would be led to believe that he had a very key part in the career of Deontay Wilder in terms of being his trainer. Yeah, if you were to look on his Twitter page, you'd see that JD is the trainer of Deontay Wilder. If you look into JD's background, in fact, if you go into his background, let me do this. Maybe I can JD is. Right, let's look this up. We're going to do some investigating today before I go even further. Let me just pull this up a second, yeah? Okay. JDS, you'll see this. Let me get this up for you now. Here we go. JDS. This box rec, you can all check it yourself. Hello, Charles. Hope you're well. JDS, hometown, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Matchmaker record, promoter record. JDS started boxing in North Fort, Alabama in 1995 to train, manage, and promote local fights. At 26, he was the youngest promoter in the sport. In 2007, Deas was named the United States Olympic Committee's National Development Boxing Coach of the Year. 2, he was the first licensed promoter ever in the state of Alabama. Okay. That's it. That's it about JDS. So that's what they tell us. I heard that he was some sort of criminal investigator. I'm sure he was. I think I mentioned in another video before on some TV series. That's what I heard. But anyway, and that is what we're led to believe. I'll put this back up there again. Now, Mark Breland was fired. The former Olympian, world champion, and trained Deontay Wilder for the beginning of his career. This is what Mark Breland is saying. I trained Deontay Wilder from the beginning of his career. So if he trained Deontay Wilder from the beginning of his career, who is this guy? Who is this guy? So he's saying that JD did the raps. He checked the raps. That's what he would do. But he didn't train Deontay Wilder because Breland trained him. And then when he got to the top of the mountain, Deontay Wilder, Breland had no contact or less contact with him. But who still stayed in contact with Deontay Wilder? Jay Deas. Okay? So while Breland's coming under some fire and got fired, why is nobody talking about Jay Deas? Why is everyone talking about Mark Breland getting fired? Why is nobody getting on the phone and interviewing Jay Deas to exactly what his role is in the camp? Because if he's not the trainer of Deontay Wilder and he's just a mate and a friend of Deontay Wilder and a cheerleader or a supporter or a bag, listen, from what I understand and what I'm getting a picture of, this is why I started to get passionate about. What I'm starting to get the picture from what Breland is, Jay Deas is nothing more than a yes man. And do you know what a yes man is? A yes man is a pacifier. He's the kind of guy that has a job and will do a job to make his money and not rock the boat. A yes man will say, yes, master, yes, master. Yes, whatever you say, master, I'll do this. I'll lick your boots. I'll do that. I'll do this. And they, even if they see something is wrong, they will say nothing about it because they want to keep their job. And guess what a yes man does? A yes man brings other yes men around them. Do you know why? Because they too, when they say, you know what? Deontay doesn't like it this way. Deontay doesn't like it that way. Don't say this to Deontay. Don't say this to Deontay. Should we train like this? No. What does Deontay want? It's like the king enters the gym and you, as the yes man, Jay Deas, does whatever Deontay wants. If this is the case, then Mark Breland's in a situation where Mark Breland is the former Olympic champion, the former world champion, lots of experience within the sport of boxing, is coming and saying, hey, yo, this ain't right. You need to be hitting the bag. You need to be skipping rope. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And then you've got a yes man in Jay Deas that says, no, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't say this. Don't say that. You don't want to upset Deontay. You don't want to upset Deontay. You don't want to upset Deontay. And while all this is going on, Deontay's been allowed to just do it. Who is coaching Deontay Wilder? To the point where, you know, he gets to world champion, he's knocking guys out, and then Jay probably say to him, you know what? You're knocking dudes out, man. That right hand's brutal. We're knocking everybody out here. You don't need Breland. What do you need Breland for? Breland's only causing stress in the camp. You want an easy camp, innit? You've got to look at the people you've got around you now. You don't need Jay Deas. I mean, you don't need Breland. You can see how this moves. Yes, people are probably the worst people in the world to be around. But you know why? Because you could walk into a room with snakes and you'll say, and I'll say, I've got a yes man around me and I'm going to a room with snakes. They go, whatever you want, boss. Yes, boss. You walk into a room with snakes. It's okay, boss. As long as I get my paycheck at the end of the day, it's okay. They can't see the signs of danger. And even if they did see the signs of danger, they don't want to see the wrath. They don't want to lose that position. They don't want to lose that lifestyle. So they're not prepared to make the tough calls, whereas Breland is. This man right here, question needs to be asked of Jay Deas. The American media needs to be asking questions, who is Jay Deas and what Jay Deas is doing? But will they do that? They probably won't, because there's an agenda out there. JD's face fits the picture. And when your face fits, don't ask no questions. Don't ask no questions. But if your face don't fit the picture, then you know what happens here. All the questions get asked. You understand? So, to me, there needs to be the boxing writers, the boxing media need to turn around and ask the questions, who the hell is Jay Deas? Other than being a cheerleader for Deontay Wilder. And if that's the case, then we go back and question the character of Deontay Wilder. Only to the point, only to saying that when certain fighters get to a position in boxing, they feel that they're untouchable. Then you go back to what Breland was saying about him being untrainable. Yeah, he probably is untrainable because of this guy, Jay Deas. Because I don't believe Deontay was like that in the first place. If you look at Deontay Wilder going back, let's go back a bit. Remember when Deontay, will you ever see that video in the car park with Deontay Wilder and Lennox Lewis? Do you see when Lennox was showing him the jab? Did Deontay at that point look an untrainable type of guy? No, you don't. I'm telling you, having worked with athletes at the lowest level to the highest level of sport, yeah, an athlete doesn't just become untrainable. It is an aspect within their behavior and the mechanism within their the system that is festered. That is something that is built upon. And that's caused by ego. And yes, people talk to you all the time. You're the best, you're the greatest, you're this, you're that, you're that. And when you've got yes people, they blind you from the truth and the truth of who you are. They blind you from the truth of who you are, and they stunt your progression as a fighter, as an athlete. We've seen it over and over and over again. So you see this guy right here? This guy right here is a problem. But he is typical of what is in boxing today. I'm not saying that he hasn't been a part of the Deontay Wilder success, but he's also a problem in terms of the yes people, in terms of characteristics. They don't want to rock the boat. They won't make the hard calls. They won't turn around and say, you know, Deontay, you need to put more training in. You know, Deontay, you need to work on your footwork. You know, Deontay, we can't just rely on the right hand. You know, Deontay, we need to do different things. You know, Deontay, them raps look suspicious to me. No, you're not going to do that, because if you go back and tell your fighter that, listen, you know what, them rats look suspicious. You know what, I don't trust this Tyson Fury fight. You know what, I don't like this. Or, you know what, you ain't put the effort in camp. Who is going to tell Deontay, who would say to Deontay, look, you know what, you ain't performing the way you should be performing. You ain't doing what you should be doing. Who's going to say that? Because if you've got a bunch of yes men, they're not going to say nothing to the champion. Nothing. So the one man that stands up and says, you know what, this ain't on. So I'm going back now and asking myself in the video, why did Jay Deas not get up and stop that fight? If he's the head trainer, why was it that Breland got up and stopped the fight? No, it all makes sense. It's all coming together now, because Breland is the head trainer, not Jay Deas. So Jay Deas doesn't know when to stop a fight or when not to stop a fight, because he doesn't know. He's a fraud. So the real guy who's been in the corners, who knows a fight game, could see from judging from his own career when the legs are gone and he's not in a position. So Breland stepped up and said, no, bro, I'm not seeing any more of this. You're getting battered. I'm not seeing any more of this. So he goes in and he stops the fight. So then Breland gets fired for being not a yes man. For not being a yes man. Just use critical thinking for a second. Diaz would never have stopped that fight. Why? Because he's a yes man. He doesn't want to incur the wrath of Deontay Wilder. And when you're in a position, there's no other way of looking at this. When you're on the outside looking in, and you've never been in a training camp, you've never been in the dynamics of dealing with fighters, and you've never been in the dynamics of doing coaching and working in clubs and working in environments where you work with people all the time, you sit back and say, oh, well, there's two ways to look at this. No. There is only one way to look at this. When you're working with yes people, they will always say yes. Even if it means that it's no. Even if it means that it's going to tell you, listen, but Breland wasn't a yes man. That's what it is. Breland has gone. But Deas needs to go as well. Deas should have been the first one out the door, not Breland. Deas should have gone. And that just shows you the way of thinking. If Deontay Wilder is seriously becoming heavyweight champion of the world again, he needs to get rid of Deas. He's got rid of Breland. He needs to get rid of Deas. But you know what? If he got to the point of his career now where he's just got a bunch of hangers on and yes people around him, then I have to say myself, in terms of the progression of him as a fighter, is null and void. It's not happening. Because they're not going to tell him, champ, who is in that team to tell him now, yo, you need to put your socks up. You need to train harder. You need to not rely on that right hand so much. There is no guide. There's nobody professionally qualified and trained to tell Deontay at this minute what to do. And what, you're bringing in Alex Scott now? Is that another yes man? Come on, man. Come on. Another close friend. Alex Scott's a close friend of Deontay Wilder. Yeah, he probably wants people around that he can trust. But he trusts Jay Deas. I wouldn't trust Jay. I personally wouldn't trust Jay Deas. Personally. But I'd rather trust Breland than Deas. Why? Because at least Breland's turned around saying to me, look, I need to do X, Y, and Z. He's actually stand up and being a non-yes man and making decisions, say, look, this isn't right, that isn't right, this isn't right. Rather than the guy who has Deontay Wilder's number and is excluding Breland from the conversation and hasn't had Breland talking to Deontay for years. Because obviously, if that situation came about and Breland had talked to Deontay on the phone for years, that means that Jay Deas is behind that. And why would Jay Deas do that? To protect his own skin. When you want to protect your own skin and protect your own position and protect your own relationship, when you're a fraud, you will do things like that. That's the sort of snake behavior that goes on. So now Breland's come out and said that, it puts a whole different light on that camp. I'll tell you what the telltale sign is moving forward for Deontay Wilder. If he announces that Malik Scott is in that corner, that will tell you whether he's trainable or not. Because you're going to bring Malik Scott into to do what? I'm not saying he's not a good trainer, but you need someone who's going to really. He needs a corporal in there. Do you understand? To tighten some stuff up. I couldn't see now. Before I used to think it'd be great to see Derek James in there with Deontay Wilder. Can you imagine that James Ali Bashir with Deontay? Nah, he'd get fired in his first week. He'd get fired in the first week. He'd get fired in the first week. Let's see what Mitchell's saying. Mitchell says, when you care everyone, it's obvious that has an effect on the ego. And Wilder has done that. JD's job is to say, we've got the right hand now. Let's work. Not, yes, chap, you're the baddest man on the planet. Of course. But that is what's going on. That's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on, Mitchell. Salute to you, my brother. Salute to you as well. You can tell he's just happy for a check. He doesn't know how to improve, just enable. Yeah, he's an enabler. When you're a yes person, you enable bad habits and toxic behavior. Because yes to buffoonery. You're a fraud. And all you know is about being a fraud, which means not being real, which means not coming up with the truth, which is even if you do feel some way, a certain way, you're not going to come out of it because you've got to protect your fraud image. You're a fraud. That's what it is. He's a cheerleader. I swear he is. That's what it is. And if you look at the media, like people come out and say, oh, you know, he's a cheerleader. He's the head trainer of Deontay Wilder. Oh, well, if somebody, please, in the comment section, if somebody in the comment section can justify Jay Deas as the trainer of Deontay Wilder ahead of Mark Breland, please, I want to hear the argument. I do want to hear it. I'm sick of this crap in boxing. I really am. And I just fed up of it. Fed up. Honestly fed up of it. You know, and Deontay Wilder's not the only one. There's a few other names I could call out in boxing that you know are proper, just got yes people around them. And the thing is, what fight fans are not understanding here is that because of this cheerleading nonsense, what happens is a fighter doesn't progress to be the best fighter they possibly could be. And then what happens is you don't get great fights. You get comments like, oh, he's only a windmill. He's only a windmill fighter. Or he only throws windmill punches. Well, are you going to come and look at Jay Deas and says, well, he's a fraud trainer. He's a fraud trainer. He's got a fraud trainer in the corner. Are you going to talk about Jay Deas like this? I don't hear anybody coming out and saying anything much about Jay Deas. Deontay Wilder's a fraud. Oh, he's not a real fighter. He's not a real boxer. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, Mark Breland got fired. And everyone's sensationalizing it. Why don't they talk about this guy, Jay Deas? And this is the kind of buffoonery we've got in boxing. People like Ruben Guerra, complete buffoon. If you go on J Deas' Twitter page, it says J Deas, head trainer of Deontay Wilder. Will you do it? Let me just do this now, just to do it. This is sort of people we've got in boxing that I just get fed up of talking with, but I'll do it anyway. Let me get it up. Right. Okay. Let me get this up a second. He's his PA. Watch this. What does that say, ladies and gentlemen? Let me take this a second off. Now, as far as I can read, trainer of Deontay Wilder, Bronze Bomber Wilder, and owner of Sky Boxing Promotions, Sky Boxing Gym. Trainer of Deontay Wilder, Bronze Bomber. Trainer. Understand that. Guy's got to go. Guy has got to go as soon as possible. He's got to go. And Deontay needs a new team around him. But I don't know if the blinkers are on and he doesn't know his head from his tail. But he needs to go. This J Deas has to go. Character has to go. And he needs to get himself a proper team around him. Promotions, well, isn't Al Heyman looking after Deontay Wilder's career? I would have thought as advisor and doing promotions. I think he's doing all right with BBC. So what is J Deas doing in terms of press conferences? A front man. They call it a front man. That's what they call it. Don't call him a fraud or call him a front man. Front man. That's what he is. J Deas is a front man. Nothing more to it. Mark Breland should be given the credit for what he has achieved with Deontay Wilder. And he probably could achieve a lot more if Wilder was listening. And I believe that Wilder it made it difficult for Wilder to learn under those circumstances of J Deas. Who's the closest person to Deontay Wilder? You probably think J Deas. And that's a strange situation when Breland is actually meant to be the trainer. Have you ever heard of a situation where a trainer hasn't spoken to his fighter over the phone for years? Could you imagine Tunde Ajayi with Anthony Yarde in that situation? Could you imagine Adam Booth with David Haye? Huh? Ridiculous. Could you imagine Angela Dundee with Ray Leonard? Not talking to one another on the phone. Could you imagine Customado with Mike Tyson and Customado not being on the phone with Mike Tyson? Could you imagine that? Yes, Breland will say if Deontay was having a bad day, Deas would make everyone walk on eggshells, fear he'd get fired. That is what I'm talking about. A yes man. I'm done. J Deas needs to get sacked. He needs to go ASAP. Loyalty. If you want loyalty in boxing, get yourself a damn dog, Deontay Wilder. But for goodness sake, get yourself a decent trainer. Get yourself a decent team around you, a proper team around you. You're an elite athlete. Conduct yourself like an elite athlete and stop getting the yes men around you. And sort whatever this legal ramifications out, but get your ass back in the gym and get your ass ready to fight to become heavyweight champion of the world again. And get yourself a proper trainer, an experienced trainer, and a trainer. You know, your trainer, whoever your trainer is going to be moving forward, is going to tell us a lot about who you are as a fighter. If you bring in a yes man in the corner, then all the things that Breland said about you is absolutely correct. And if J Deas is still in the corner when you move on with your career, we all know what is up. That's it. This isn't about personalities. This isn't about being hateful or bitter. This is just calling it as it is. I like Deontay Wilder as a fighter. I like the fact that he's the most exciting fighter in terms of knockouts in boxing. There's nobody pound for pound that punches like Deontay Wilder and gives you the sort of knockouts that Deontay Wilder gives you, right? You never know what's going to happen with Wilder when he lands that right hand. That's the electrifying type of fighter he is. Let's call it for what it is and not the BS that the media, so I say the fake media and the mainstream media want to tell us that he's not an exciting fighter, because he's a damn exciting fighter. They'll push you the narrative that, oh, Deontay Wilder, he's not that good. Listen, we know he's got a right hand. And like I said, the top 10 heavyweights in the world, bar Tyson Fury to one side. Let's see how many of them want to stand up to him and feel that right hand. Let me see how many people want to face that right hand. Very few want to face that right hand, my friend. Very few. Dear me. And other than Deontay Wilder, who else has Jay Deas worked with? I'm done. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for listening. This has been BWTM Sports. Please, if you are subscribed to the channel, please smash the notification bell. Make sure you've clicked to all on the notification bell, because YouTube are playing games. I'm out of here. Take care.